Awesome. And I think you had this experience of being in Russia, but in certain circles you could kind of open up a door and kind of go into a whole new world, like a Spanish speaking world or a Latin American world. I had a similar experience when I was in university. I had a really good friend from Iran, and he introduced me to the whole like Iranian community in this city. And it would be so interesting just to be like the only I you know you could say foreigner, but it was actually my country. But it's like being the only person that's not of that nationality or of that area, and it was really, really interesting. And what did you think you drew from that experience? Because you're born and raised in Russia, but now all of a sudden you're spending time with Latin Americans, which I'm very familiar with living in Mexico City now. What did you kind of draw from that experience? What did you learn? What did you discover? It would be really interesting to hear that.
Well, at first, I think for me it was really a great experience, because for me it was, I think, the first time when I really immersed into the foreign culture, because prior to those that contact with Latin Americans, I didn't have such an experience with talking to foreigners at all.
In general, okay.
Well, for example, until university, I was 2 times. I have been 2 times abroad, but once it was Ukraine, and in Ukraine, so it's just Russian.
Of course.
And the second time was in Spain, but at that time I didn't speak Spanish that well. And when I was in Spain, I had been learning Spanish only for 2 months, so it's just I wasn't able to.
El baño?
Yes, something like this, and I just remember that some like erroneous phrases that I was talking, and I just now in the modern slang, I could say that I felt cringy.
Right.
Yeah, for example, I remember one phrase when I was in Madrid, and I said, it's like after 2 months of studying Spanish, I said, "Somos no hablamos español," and for me, it's kind of funny, but I really like this experience. Well, returning to the matter at hand, it's like what I drew. For me, experience was that not everyone is unique. Everyone is unique, so not everyone is just this, and not everyone are the same. Because for me, it was really the first experience to meet someone who is different, because in terms of even linguistics wise, we could say that in Russia it's some kind of, we have a strange situation, because for example, in Spain, even within Spain, there are plenty of accents, and if we talk about Spanish-speaking world, it's like hundreds of them. But in Russia, we could say that there are 3 main accents, and 2 of them are dying out. So and almost only like 5% of people speak differently from Moscow.
Wow.
And that's why for me it was really some kind of a new experience to meet anyone different, because in Russia you could hear accents only if you talk to someone who is not Russian native speaker, because there are some, for example, some peoples who study their language first and only then Russian. But if you are Russian native speaker, then I couldn't tell any difference.
Interesting. Yeah, that's always fascinating about Russian.
So it's like Russia is a huge country, but everyone speaks the same as to my ears. And there were at first I was just fascinated, and I didn't notice any kinds of negative aspects. So at first, for me, maybe just me, but for example, I hate being late. But for Latin Americans and to the less degree to Spaniards, if they are like from 10 minutes to 30 minutes late, they are not late. They are on time.
But
And
even from the Russian perspective, is it like this? Because I imagined maybe you're not exactly like, I don't know, the typical Russian. Maybe are Russians always like, how is their punctuality is basically what I'm trying to say.
Well, punctuality, I think in Russia there is a stereotype that a woman could arrive late, but a man should always be on time. And there are even like stereotypes of other peoples that are even more punctual than us. For example, we have a stereotype that Germans are very
this is what I imagine too.
yeah, the Germans are very, how it's called, punctual. But and I could say that Russians are somewhere like between Germans and Latin Americans. But for me, it's kind of funny to hear that Germans say that they are not punctual, and the Swiss people are very punctual.
It's always so interesting to hear like the inner like politics between people. You know, it's so interesting because we have an impression of, for example, I have the same impression of Germans, but what do the Germans think? And that's pretty interesting.
And it's like it was one negative aspect, but for me, I drew something which really affected positively my life, and that openness of people. For example, I could say that before talking to Latin Americans and maybe even foreigners in general, but Latin Americans in particular and especially, I could say that I was a really shy, timid person, and it took me a long time to start a conversation, and if it wasn't necessary to talk to someone, I wouldn't do this. But I saw, and it's like I was seeing that Latin Americans were always like talking to each other, but it's like and they were always like ready to help, and after it's like I showed that I could speak Spanish, it was like this readiness to help or readiness to talk to me just skyrocketed.
That's so awesome. And to touch on the why Latin Americans are late,